rage and roar. Fear the bears are charging fierce. Crimson skies, no peace, no shore. Renegade and hearted metal skin. Battle cries that go within. Blue guardian shattered by the clash. When mutants crumble in the trash. Fear the bears are in roaring lens. Claws of steel break the distance. Against the world's on fire. Rising from the pyre. Justice walks in the air we breathe. Twisted fate, no time to grieve. In the shadow of his iron might. Darkness falls upon the night. Engines roar and cap screams. War-torn land, shattered dreams. Renegades stood back in awe. Fearless hear the mighty claw. Fear the bears or roaring lens. Claws of steel break the distance. Against the world's on fire. Rising from the pyre. Justice walks in the air we breathe. Twisted fate, no time to grieve. In the shadow of his iron might. Darkness falls upon the night. Engines roar, make count screams. War-torn land, shattered dreams. Renegades step back in awe. Fierce hear the mighty claw. Fear the bears or roaring lens. Claws of steel break the distance. Against the world's on fire. Rising from the pyre. Rising from the pyre. Rising from the pyre. his iron might. Die!